Fit for Life Radio, episode 85. Your hosts, myself, Gary, and William. And we have special guest.
I feel like I'm in trouble already.
Julia MacMasters.
Hi.
That's Julia. She is a intern at Coastal Strength Fitness. And have you graduated? Are you done with your first level of school?
Yeah, so I just graduated from the University of Delaware with a bachelor's in nutrition and dietetics, and I had a minor in disability studies. And then I go on to my dietetic internship in the fall up in Boston to become a registered dietitian. So it's kind of like grad school, but not really.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's super specific for dietetics.
Dietetics.
That sounds real fancy.
That's kind of a fun word to say.
Dietetics.
A lot of people are like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I saw a pamphlet for a college, and it was dietetics. I bet that's nutrition.
I mean, yeah, that's the best.
You know what it makes me think of? Robotics for some reason.
Dietetics.
You're stacking, making things. But what we're going to do today is dive in with Julia on kind of, what got her interested in all this stuff. And nowadays with social media, I'm sure people are exposed to different things more. So maybe you can kind of dive in with your interest more so. I remember when I got into exercise, nutrition, fitness, all that, it was basically through a men's fitness magazine.
The magazines, man.
And then from there, all you really have was 3 books you could get. And I remember one of them, or the one I got, was the Arnold Schwarzenegger encyclopedia. And you think back to, that was it.
Yeah.
And then you would either have to take a college course so you could get textbooks. You go to the library and there'd be a book from 1972
Mm-hmm.
that was talking
That
about
was it.
it was
doing deep knee bends.
we think that you should eat. I don't even think they had nutrition advice.
Nah, they just ate food. That's what they used to do.
So now it's just crazy, the access to information. But then with that easy access now, you have to almost kind of wade through different
filter through that a lot
everything.
more than we did when we started.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So most people, Julia, I think you were an athlete, which gets a lot of people interested in the physicality, which leads to fitness and stuff. So just kind of talk about maybe your background with sports and things like that, and then besides seeing the pamphlet on dietetics,
I'm gonna say that all day.
What sparked your interest with that?
Yeah, so I played soccer growing up, and then in high school I decided I want to run cross country, and that was what started my interest in nutrition. But it started off in a little bit of a disordered interest, because it wasn't I want to get into nutrition because I think it will fuel me and I'll be able to run better. It was the fastest girls are really lean, I need to get into nutrition because I need to lose weight. Never really became obsessive until I started to become a little bit more serious about running, and then it was all day long I was just doing research on weight loss and quote unquote nutrition. And then once that bit me in the butt, once I started to get injured a lot, the interest in nutrition kind of shifted to actual nutrition.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to before, you were looking more performance and
just weight loss solely. Yeah. And then it was whoa, now this is affecting my bones. Why is that? And then as I had to quit running, I got very into the fitness side, and then just my interest in nutrition has just evolved in the last 8 years a lot. But it all started from running and from wanting to lose weight to be faster. Mm-hmm. And I will say, it did evolve into a way that I'm very grateful for how it started, because I would have never gotten into the field if it weren't for that in the first place.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I think, end up in it from maybe some frustration or things like that. That's
really interested. Common for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was always scrawny and weak.
Same.
And insecure. So then I start working out, and then you want to learn more, or maybe it doesn't come as easy as it does for other people. So then you dive into why certain things work, and really it helps make you a better coach when you kind of come from that.
When you have
aspect.
to struggle. Yeah.
That's the thing too. I know that this is the field that I'm supposed to be in because of all the things that I've been through. it's just going to make me a better dietitian and coach. Like, if you can read all the research, but if you haven't been through it yourself, it's completely different.
Yeah.
Experience.
And as you're learning when, at the gym, when we meet new people, and most of our clients are 40 and over, looking to lose weight, get healthy, but not just lose, which we'll get into maybe. Yeah, everyone starts with, I want to lose weight, right? Which is super general statement. Really, no one wants to just lose weight. They want to lose body fat, which we can break down, and that can go in the direction of health and performance. So your main thing, it wasn't so much probably that you wanted to lose weight. It's that, I wanted to lose body fat, which, it does make people more efficient runners because you have less weight to move from point A to point B. But as you probably experienced, if you just go about it like, hey, let me lose weight, you lose weight, but you're not fueling yourself properly, it can lead to losing muscle, bone loss, things like that, which are not going to help performance and definitely not going to help health. And that's where it gets detailed and nuanced, and people typically need help because, we can just go, I'm going to eat less or find some diet and cut out a bunch of food groups and lose weight, but it doesn't mean that it's the best thing happening. So when you went to college, did you run it in college?
Yeah, so I ended up walking onto the team about a month into college. And I made it for about a little over a year. And then I got my 4th stress fracture and was like, all right, I got to cut it here. The doctors told me in high school she should not be running in college. Like, they told my dad, they pulled him aside and they were like, do not let her run in college. He was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, she wants to run in college. So, and, I was able to reverse the bone density problem. So that I don't regret any of that.
Does anyone else appreciate the irony of walking on to
the cross-country team?
So for those not listening, if you're a college athlete, sometimes you have scholarship, but you can also basically try out for the team and make the team, and it's called walking on. So you'll hear it a lot with football and basketball. Hey, they were a walk on, but my twisted sense of humor just appreciated that you walked on to the cross country.
I ran on to the cross country team.
But okay, so the bone issues now. Mostly, did you kind of find out about that from you started? So did you start getting all the injuries after you tried to diet a bunch to lose weight?
Yeah, so I would say like sophomore year of high school, I started to like really cut calories, started to lose weight pretty rapidly, and then I was getting faster. And then junior year, I was in really good shape, and all of a sudden, I had lost my period for I think like 3 months, and then I got it back for a couple, and then I lost it for 9 months. And at that point, like, at the end of those 9 months, like, my energy was just horrible. I was collapsing after workouts. Like, it was not a good position to be in. And then probably like 4 months after that, when I got my period back, I got my first stress fracture. And that was the end of junior year. Going into senior year, I knew that I wanted to run in college. But I was coming off of being on crutches for 8 weeks. So the shape does not come back quickly. And then as soon as I got back in shape, my femur fractured. So then there was another few months. And then the third one was 3 months after that one. So it was just like back to back to back.
Yeah. So were you just kind of taking the shotgun approach and just like eating less?
Yeah.
Just like, for lack of better words, almost like kind of starving yourself?
Exactly. Yeah.
That wrestling diet.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a tough experience. I mean, and you learn, and then I could see where that would motivate you to want to help people, because unfortunately that's the approach most people take is, I want to lose weight and I'm just going to eat as little as possible and then normally pair that with I'm going to do a ton of exercise.
Yeah.
Now yours was more of a sport. You weren't necessarily like, I'm doing this for exercise, but you see what starts to happen.
Still the same effect though.
The mismatch and that's something we always try to get across to clients is, like, more is not better.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. I think that's
enough is better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you just want to create, if weight loss, fat loss is the goal, it's like you want to create a small deficit. And just because a little, now you're losing, a lot of people then have a tendency, well, let me just do even less so I can lose faster. But what people don't realize is, then you start to lose bone and muscle and is no bueno.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, so you went through that experience, and now let's talk about, which I think is interesting. It's the more, we're working with you, and I always flash back. And I started when I was 20 and finishing up college. And started when I was a trainer when I was 20, 21. You're 22. So I always it's like flashbacks. And again, back then it was like you had your cert and the internet was kind of starting. So I could kind of find like an ebook or two.
Yep.
But for the most part, you would just kind of train people and you learned. But you'll have a lot of questions and follow a lot of people on like Instagram and YouTube. What's it like so you're going through school, you're getting educated through that, and then also there is all this information out there. How does that pull you? And
yeah, is that hard?
It's very overwhelming because the stuff that they teach you in school is what they've been teaching for years. And then it's like, if you want to go off and do research on another topic, you can find research on everything. And so it's just a matter of like filtering out what your philosophy is, because all the big people on Instagram or whatever, they all have like different philosophies. And I'm sure there's research on all of that stuff to like make it,
correct, right?
Correct,
You can always make anything correct.
You can.
So, it's hard. I mean, I think it all comes down to like the same things. It's just like the nitty gritty stuff. And it's interesting to like read and learn about, but.
Yeah. And a lot of stuff can be right and a lot of stuff can be wrong. It's context dependent. And the answer is typically it depends.
Yeah.
I was thinking the other day, I was eating a meal and you could look at pretty much anything you eat and realize that you could find some article online that says that every component of that meal is
bad,
awful and bad. And you can also find every component of that meal is amazing and awesome. Yeah. So, and you as a student learning to do this as a career, but the crazy thing is, someone who has tons of other responsibility and is also in the same situation. And then they're getting overwhelmed, which is why it's even more important to have coaches and trainers who do it for you, right? This is really the process, like, of you learn all this stuff so you can distill it down and help give clients actionable steps.
And give them very simple answers too.
Yeah, and I feel like it all comes down to like what's actually practical. Like you can do research on like the keto diet, but is everyone actually gonna like
do it? Yeah,
it's just not reasonable to assume that everyone can do it. So
that's the hardest part with so much information is like there's so many things that are like optimal. But like optimal doesn't matter at all when when you start talking about real people and real life and all these different circumstances and variables, like then it's just like what actually works in real life, and all of that research kind of goes out the window, so to speak, because if it doesn't work in practice, then what's the point?
Yeah. I know, like for me, I was ideally if you want to break down nutrients, right? So for my carbs, I'll have rice a lot, and lately I've been doing potatoes. And potatoes, they have more potassium, more micronutrients, more fiber, all this, but they're a little more annoying to cook, so I like, I'll have to peel them or steam them. Look, so whereas the rice,
laziest cook I've ever met in my entire life.
I can put in the rice cooker, like it's nothing. It's just boom, you set it, and then it can sit in there. Whereas the potatoes is just more stuff to clean, and so I'll buy them, and then they sit there more often because then I end up not doing it. It's not a part of my routine, and so I always try to relate this stuff when it happens to me to regular people, right, who don't even do this for a living. And then you realize, like you can't, and it's our slogan, progress over perfection, but I'm always reminded daily that how true that is, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, man, it would be better if all my rice was replaced with potatoes. But then but in actuality, it just doesn't happen because, and honestly, like I have the time and stuff to do it. It's just, I'm lazy. So, but having rice ready is better than relying on crackers, you know? So,
or cereal.
People have to, and the end of the day, it's not going to matter that much, right?
No.
Like, just make a good choice, be consistent, control your total intake, and, set something up that you can do consistently.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the quote unquote perfect choice and the perfect like combination of foods. Like what you do works perfect. Like you're good.
So now that which would be fun, you're learning a lot at the gym as far as kind of working with people who a little bit are raising their hand because they're like, I'm interested in the gym and coaching. And then when you finish up your degree and you go do your internship in Boston, it'll be more in a clinical setting, right?
Yeah, so it's like clinical and community and food service. So they just kind of give you a taste of all of the areas of nutrition. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a different scene than
what we do.
Yeah.
Do you find now working with real people, and as you get into that it makes you more excited and, more like eager to kind of be in the industry?
More hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because if you look at like all the things that I learned in school, it's all this stuff, but it's just on paper. Mm-hmm. And then you take it into a real scenario and you're like, wait, this stuff is real. Like it all actually works. Mm-hmm. So it makes me excited that the profession is going this way, and they're teaching us what is real.
Now I know, so you were a runner, and you had your experience with the eating, but about a year or so ago, a little over a year ago, you really got into the training side of things, which was one reason too why you wanted to work at a gym. Mm-hmm. For that angle, which for most people they go hand in hand. People need to exercise and move, and I know a lot of times we put emphasis on making sure people control their nutrition, especially when it comes to your body composition, but exercise is like essential. Mm-hmm. You need it. We need to move and have resistance and do these things. So what kind of got you into the like weight training and things like that? Do you still run anymore? Do you miss it? What's your kind of fitness approach look like now?
Yeah, so I actually always lifted like twice a week with a trainer throughout high school just to be in better running shape. And once I got rejected senior year for the team, going into like college, I didn't really know if I wanted to try to walk on, because instead of putting all my focus on the cardio, I put it in the 2 lifting sessions a week. I just had so much fun with it, and I was like, man, I kind of want to do this. But then it was like, I got into running and I was in good shape, and I was like, no, I'm going to go for this. So I always had lifted, and I always really enjoyed it. It was like one of my favorite parts of like my weekly training. And it's funny because before I even started running, like even in middle school, I was like, when I'm finished running, I'm going to bodybuild or, mm-hmm. weightlift. And I don't know why my heart was like tugging me towards that, but I always just knew that like that was what I wanted to end up doing. So once I quit running, I quit after my 4th stress fracture. So I was like, I can't run. I could barely do any cardio because it was my femur again. So I just had to lift every day, and I was like, man, this is really fun. But I still had that, like, I have to do 6 to 8 hours of cardio a week still. And so honestly, it took like a year and a half for me to stop doing that. But yeah, the more I just got into like the research of lifting and learning about how to lift and finding new workouts, I just got more and more into it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was about a year, probably only a year ago, that I like stopped doing cardio and kind of went all in with lifting.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
I mean, I like lifting, and you say bodybuilding, obviously it can be taken to the extremes of the sport, which is fine. It's like any sport, like football is extreme. Like who's going to go smash their head into other people's heads over and over. So that's what's great about sports, is you get to watch people push the limits and boundaries of things. But in general, for the average person, I think it has a great message, because you're supporting building up, right? Mm-hmm. When a lot of times people approach fitness, it's like, I got to
break myself down.
Exactly. And you're saying, hey, I want to build muscle. I want to gain strength. So it's just, that's a good mindset to have. And it's super scalable. There's like progressions. That's why I always liked it, is you can say, okay, well, here's where I am. You can kind of map out where
and it's cool because you can like play around with different workouts. You can see what happens if you like eat this many grams of protein or whatever it is. Like you can play around with it and just see what happens. And it's it's cool because it goes beyond just like the physical. It teaches you a lot of like, I guess, strength, and I don't know, you just learn a lot along the way, and it's just been like a fun experiment, I guess. And
that's all it is. Forever is just one good cool experiment, and you can change variables as you go, and if you're really into it, have a good time.
Yeah.
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 And I think it can help lead to a very healthy mindset with food, again, because it's not just about losing weight, right? It's if you do want to lose, it's specifically body fat, and you're super cautious about, well, I don't want to lose muscle and I still want to progress with my workouts. So then nutrition isn't just about like, let me just eat as little as possible. You're like, man, how I want to be as efficient as possible, and what's the best things to eat to support my activity.
Yeah, I've always said like the gym kind of saved me from my eating disorder, because it was the first place that I ever felt like my build was welcomed. Like I didn't have to feel like this pressure to lose weight to like perform better. It was just like eat so that I can lift heavier and build my bones up. And so I don't know, it was a cool like seeing the shift in my mindset when I started going all in with the lifting. Like food just looked different to me, and I looked different to me. My relationship with myself and with food was just totally different.
Yeah, and that's something we see with clients. As you know, when we normally work with a lot of people, we'll kind of have calories and protein, and when you tell people to eat more of something like protein, it's hard for them to wrap their brain around it, because everything should be about deprivation.
It should be about less.
So yeah, again, it kind of helps plant that seed of like, this is about, more than less. All these puns. But so now we have, kind of what you had to overcome, with and how you started out with really like most people's initial, whether they're starting when they're 40 or when they're 16, it's like, I need to lose weight. It's this visual thing, and I'm just going to eat as little as possible and hopefully see that happen. But then it leads to, losing muscle, losing bones, which then can lead to injuries and pain and stuff like that. So now with your training, your conditioning, and I think what a lot of people have to remember with conditioning is, well, for one, when you're resistance training, you're still getting some conditioning, like your heart's elevating, you're working it, and if you walk, you're getting movement and a little bit of conditioning. And then beyond that, conditioning's, it's dependent on what you need it for. If your sport, running is your sport, you're going to need more, right? Or if you play football, you're going to need a certain type of conditioning. But for most people, if you just need to walk, or at least have the capability of being able to run like a mile. I don't know in our current environments where you would ever need to run more than a mile. But so sometimes doing more of something like that, it has diminishing returns. So it's being okay with enough.
Yeah.
And it's hard to like let go of that, especially if you've been so set in your mind that like this is the way. It's hard to just let it go and just see what happens. Also because it takes a while. Like my body didn't change overnight. It's like people want that, but it's not what's going to happen. It
just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And I think where you'll have an advantage as a coach into the future is you've experienced all this at a young age, and now you're learning everything. And when you're meeting with most people, a lot of people, it may not hit them until later in life where they're like, I got to lose weight. And then they literally pretty much do the exact approach
but
that
at 45 or 50.
that you've experienced. I'm going to eat a bunch. I'm going to do a ton of cardio, and I'm going to enter this mental state of deprivation. Whereas we know we want to get them to, hey, like fall in love with training, building your strength, having your body be capable.
Yeah, being proud of what you can do.
Yeah.
That's where you want to be.
So what do you think will be kind of like your biggest challenge going forward with diluting everything, or like taking like practical experience and then book experience and like moving forward?
I think like a huge challenge is just going to be convincing people that like we know what we're doing, because there's just so much information online and everybody will come in saying like, well, I read this, and you're like, okay, well,
and yeah.
I mean, and with our nutrition, like that's literally the biggest challenge is we have clients suggesting to us things that they maybe think they should be doing because they saw it on They heard it on Fit for Life radio.
And I can't lie. Like, I used to do the same thing. Like, I would go to, like, doctors would be like, you need to go to a dietitian, you know, with bones and stuff. And I'd be sitting there like, I'm not going to do anything that what they tell me to do. Like, I think I know what I'm doing. And so it's trying to, like, show you, you know, like, just give it time. Just try it.
And it's trusting another person too. Like, you have to, people have to trust us to give them, you know, the information and the plan to go forward. And if they don't, like, they're going to keep trying their own thing.
And the reality is different things work.
Oh, yeah.
And that really the challenge and thing we have to get people to do is actually do something.
Just try it. You have to try something.
Most people you meet have a good idea of what they should be doing, but they just don't do it.
Never take action.
So it's really more just now you have someone breathing down your neck and you actually do these things and providing that accountability and whatnot.
I think that's the biggest part of, like, nutrition coaching. Like, most people have an idea of what to do. Like you said, like, you probably shouldn't have pizza for every meal or, you know, eat candy all day. But when you have somebody that you have to kind of report back to or that's going to check in on you, you're going to change your habits a little bit because of that. So that's, I think, the more valuable part of it.
Yeah.
Because the information's out there. Information's everywhere. It's almost too much, but...
So one thing I find interesting is you were able to turn the mental corner from, you know, your initial, you know, all the injuries, which for a lot of people you can almost get PTSD and just be afraid to do anything. But the resistance training specifically was kind of like the catalyst to flip your script and see food differently and really embrace and feel confident with everything.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like, I always felt like a bigger runner, and I think that was, like, probably my biggest struggle with running was because I always just felt this pressure to, like, get leaner. I never felt quite right in a uniform. And sometimes I liked that because I was like, I can run at this weight, and everyone else is a lot skinnier than me. But at the end of the day, it really ate me alive. And then once I lifted, I was like, you know, I can be strong and big and feel good.
And somewhat of a tangent, like listening to you talk about this, I think back to when I played sports, and I played baseball mostly, and I was always smaller. And at the end of the day, the best players and the ones that get the D1 college scholarships they're bigger, right? They're like, they're taller, typically over 6 feet, naturally bigger, stronger, and you would always feel inferior, right? And it's now being older, you look back and you see when you're younger like that, there's all these observational things that you notice, and at the end of the day, that kind of is how sports work. Is like the Olympics is the perfect like experiment, and you see where certain body types gravitate to being good at certain sports because they lend themselves to certain sports, and it's kind of the way it is. It doesn't mean you're bad or wrong or good or anything like that. It's just what it is.
Yeah, and so much of it was like genetics, you know. Like, I'm not the type to healthily be 110 pounds. Like, I can't run fast at that weight because I'm gonna break.
Yeah, and it's being okay with that and maybe learning those things. And actually, Diego and I were talking about this because we both naturally have more runner builds, right? Can be really lean, smaller bone structure, and naturally was good at running from a young age, never got hurt with it. But then we really, at one point, were into, you fall into weightlifting, and there's powerlifting and CrossFit and things like, and you get injured really easily, and you're like, well, I can't, and I'm going to force this. But then you realize the people who rise to the top have like super thick bones and joints and typically just bigger structures to where they can kind of withstand it. And you could be really upset about that. But the reality is you find where you do what you can do and you just enjoy it. And that's the hard part with sports as a teenager, right? Is no one really just goes to play the sport anymore for fun and like, hey, do good for you. It is such a like highly competitive,
it's high stakes, man,
atmosphere, and it takes. And then people end up in your situation, right? Or what happened in my situation, more so different sport, is people start taking steroids and stuff, So in baseball, it's rampant, and it starts in high school. As kids are like, oh my gosh, I got to keep up. I got to be bigger, stronger, faster. And they turn to, whereas like with the running, it's like, I got to be smaller, leaner, lighter. You turn to not eating. And then in something like baseball, it's like, I got to be bigger, stronger, faster, start taking steroids. And that's none of that's good.
Nah.
So
Yeah.
it's a whole different subject.
Yeah, that's a whole different podcast.
But we can tie it back into, so as with coaching, and you meet people later in life, but some of these things from 20 years ago, before, or for you, 3 or 4 years.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late. So having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's 1 scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
Affect their decision making down the road. And then as a coach, it's and we talk about this as you're learning how important it is to get people to know, like, and trust you so that they can open up, because these things affect them. And a lot of times till those stories don't come up, then it's hard to get people to make change and make breakthroughs.
Yeah, I think that's something that has already helped me is like, so after I quit, I gained weight very steadily until about a year ago. So I gained 30 pounds and I've lost the 30 pounds in the last year. So like I've been at that side of the spectrum too. So like I can help with, it was a different situation. Like I had to gain the weight to, reverse the bone density problem. But like, again, I lost it. So like I know
what it takes.
Yeah. And so I think that that's only going to help be able to relate and
for sure
be empathetic, because I understand that like it's hard.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
And, going through those things is important, because if people don't think that like everything just came easy and natural, then they
write you off.
Yeah, they write you off, and it's harder to know, like, and trust. So, and I think that's the thing most people like listening should trust, is that most people that are in the industry have had struggles. That's why they're still in it, because they want to help people.
And that's why they coach.
Because most people come in, they're like, I love gym. I want to work at a gym all the time.
I love gym.
Yeah. They normally don't last, because you quickly realize it's not about being at a gym all day.
And it's not about you either.
The way you make a living is by people paying you for your help, and you spend most of your time helping people who struggle and don't like this stuff.
Yeah, so not people that love it like you do, and that's not as exciting.
Yeah.
So it's if you last, you have to understand it can be very frustrating, because you're dealing with people who don't like this and they're struggling, and you gotta guide them through. So it means you really want to help people, because you've really came through it yourself.
Yeah, I think it's funny you guys mentioned that, because that's something that I forget. Like oh, these people, like, not everybody's like wants to be in a gym all day long, like, or sit there reading research articles about this stuff all day. Like, I guess we're a little bit of outliers.
We definitely are. And that's something that we always remind ourselves of, when we program the workouts or really anything, is that most people, it's, sort of a struggle to get to the gym.
And I think that's
3
like,
days a week.
I don't know, that's like something that has been exciting for me because I've seen how cool it is when it like the flip switches in your mind and you're like, wait, this is fun. Like I enjoy this. And I've already seen it like in people in the gym, like all of a sudden they're like, this is fun.
Yeah.
And like to be able to be somebody who like guides people towards that. Like I would love to be able to do that.
And that's what we want, is for people to get to a point where, you know, going to the gym's more like, I don't know, brushing your teeth. It's just something you do, and it's something you do for yourself because you know that it, you know, benefits you physically, mentally, emotionally. I mean, really in every way. And getting people to that point is really the goal. You know, like if we could get everyone to a point where they could work out on their own and they learned everything and they could strength train consistently, like that would be really the ultimate goal. Now, is that going to happen? Probably not. Like, you know, people are always going to need some accountability, and some people just like to be told what to do because they don't want to have to stress about it, and that's fine too. But yeah, that's kind of the ultimate goal for us.
Yeah, and I think people hesitate to even start working out because it seems like the only benefit is like weight, but in reality it changes everything in your life. Like you just become a different person.
Yeah, your confidence, your, you know, your relationships, I mean everything, just how you feel about yourself. And the way you talk to yourself changes because you're more capable of doing things, and that adds up a lot.
And you challenge yourself. Right? It's just it's discomfort. We live in such a life where everything gravitates towards comfort. So to walk in a gym and say I'm gonna lift these
and
things,
do hard things on purpose,
like putting yourself in discomfort, it just gives you a little bit of an edge. So, and speaking of discomfort, so when you had to gain that weight, I imagine the way you convinced yourself and to go through that, it was hard mentally, but was it the bigger picture, knowing like I have to do this to improve this bone density? Is that what made you be able to go through that?
Yeah, honestly, I have the body type that will gain weight very easily, so it came quite naturally. As I was like, I guess, eating enough, suddenly I was gaining weight, and that was because I wasn't eating enough before. I think...
What did you eat more of? Or were you just like...
Just in general, I just think I ate bigger meals. Like, before it was... I'd have, 200 calorie 4 meals a day or whatever. So I just wasn't eating a lot. And
you shed a tear every time it was time to eat.
Yeah.
200 calories.
Just one Michael Jordan tear.
12 almonds. Well, that was a good lunch.
Damn, 200 calories.
So, yeah, I mean, that was, I guess, more when I was on the other extreme. So I didn't eat, like, not a lot, but I was also working with a dietitian when I started freshman year of college. So they were having me eat an uncomfortable amount of food. And again, I just kept gaining weight. And that also didn't help with running fast.
Yeah.
I needed it, but it didn't help.
Yeah.
So yeah, after that point, like, I think I just ate bigger meals. Again, it just kind of came naturally.
Yeah.
And I think with COVID, I was a little bit less active. And so I continued to gain weight. And to be honest, I think, like, a lot of it came from, like, a coping mechanism. Like, I hated being so much bigger than I was prior, but then all that would do is make you binge. And so, like, I think I don't necessarily say that I binged, but I would just cope with food, and I would have more snacks, or a little bit of peanut butter turns into like 3 spoonfuls, and you just sit sit there saying, like, this is why I'm so fat, and then you just keep. So it was very, very,
that's a tough cycle.
It was very draining emotionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, in both, you went through that mentally with, I need to lose weight to be smaller and faster, and then the exact opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and I hated it, but I always remind myself, like, because we did a lot of case studies in nutrition, and I just remember there was one she was probably like a 70-year-old woman who was in the hospital with her, like, 3rd hip fracture, and I just thought, like, if I don't turn this around, like, that's going to be me at, like, 50. And so I think that was the big thing, and I got a bone density, or the DEXA, like, at the peak of the weight gain, and they were like, we never thought you were going to be able to be this close to normal. And so that was like, okay.
That helped, like, this is worth it,
this was
and
supposed
this is
to
okay.
happen, yeah.
That's hard, especially like you hit both ends of the spectrum and then like settled in the middle, which is very, I think, hard to do, because they do tug you in each direction. So I think it's sweet that you've found like a sweet spot and like you're happy and comfortable and like, you know, loving where you're at.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens with my bone density at this point too, because that last DEXA was a year ago, and now I've lost weight. I'm sure it's going to be fine, but I get the next DEXA in a year, so I'll be interested to see what happens there.
So now, and obviously, when you initially lost the weight and had all the injuries and issues, it was just I'm not going to eat, and that negative mindset. Then you gained the weight, which, like you just said, even though it was you're trying to gain the bone density and fix that problem, but there was still a lot of mental, you know, it wasn't easy, right? Which people always see the end result and think that people have this like smooth ride, when in actuality is a complete struggle the whole time that would turn into little binges. But now, then when you lost that 30 pounds, what was the difference? What did you set out and say, now I'm going to lose this weight, or I want to lean out? Or was it more that you found the strength training and you're like, I'm going to pair this with a certain type of nutritional approach? What did that look like?
So it wasn't necessarily intentional. I'm a very obsessive type of person. So for me, like, intentionality almost doesn't really work, because I become like, when I was gaining that weight, it was all I thought about. And so that just leads you to like eat more or whatever. It's because I coped with food. And so it actually, like, once I met my boyfriend, I think like I just started realizing that like life was more than the weight gain or whatever. And all of a sudden, like, I guess my perspective around food and exercise kind of changed. It was more like, I enjoy lifting and like I enjoy the foods that I eat. And then all of a sudden I was able to like actually stop eating when I was full. And I don't know, I think it all changed around like my perspective of life, because then you're like, food just is different. It's not an emotional thing, it's just food. And I was able to eat pizza and ice cream again, and I think I was like gradually getting more active because I was getting more into like outdoorsy stuff. But yeah, I just think that it was perspective, because if you are so focused on losing weight, like, you're just missing the whole point. And then it like puts things in the opposite direction. At least it did for me, and I know it does for other people too. Like, when you're so focused on weight loss, you just like, it doesn't happen.
You get like you get like consumed by it.
Yeah.
And you kind of lose sight, like you said, of the bigger picture of like, you know, like, I want to be able to do things and enjoy myself. And when all you think about is losing weight, like, you know, you have usually not a good relationship with food, and, you know, probably socially or emotionally you're not in the best place either. And it's basically just all of these negative points coming at you, and you're not going to be in a good spot if that's all you think about.
I think I didn't, because it was all I thought about, I didn't see it as like a long-term journey. It was like, I need to lose weight right now. And like, that's like a problem, because again, it goes back to like, when you're so obsessive, it just leads to the opposite, you know, direction. And so once I like let that go, I let go of like the obsession with losing weight right now. That was when things started to change, and I was able to kind of balance everything better.
And here's the thing: most people, they want to lose weight to solve problems that the losing the weight's not going to solve.
Yeah.
And then when you see you get in a good relationship, and then there's other experiences that come along with that, and then you can see food as, oh, I get to have pizza, you know, and watch a movie with my boyfriend, and now it's just not about the pizza, right? It's about the entire experience.
Exactly.
And then I'm full, I'm done with the pizza.
And you still get to have a good experience.
You develop better relationships with food, and then everything else falls into place.
Right, yeah.
So
and I got into like religious fasting, and that was kind of when it like, the first time that I did it, I had seen somewhere that like not eating until 3, and I was like, okay, I'll try it. Somebody had passed away, and so I fasted until 3, and at like noon, I was like, why do I feel good? And then at like 2, I was like, I have so much energy, I don't know what to do with myself. And like, so then I kind of got into like fasting more. And that's been interesting, because that I would say that's like the biggest thing that has made me lose the most weight, because it makes it like kind of easy, because like
you have less time to eat.
Well, it takes
and
it takes the control and fear away from food.
Yeah, and then my relationship with food has changed drastically from that too.
Yeah.
And so I think that was like where the weight changed the most.
And I think people want fasting to be a magic bullet in and of itself, but really, and I went through it.
Same.
I've done the intermittent fasting, 24-hour fast, even a little longer fast, the whole thing. Brad Pilon ebook. That was.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was the fasting, and for me, originally it's the opposite, right? Oh, I'm always scrawny and weak. I gotta eat every 3 hours, 6 meals a day, or I'm gonna. Literally, you could get into where I haven't eaten in 2 or 3 hours, and you start having mental breakdowns of like, I'm losing muscle as we speak, and I'm breaking away. It sounds crazy, but that's the mental state you're in, and your whole life revolves. So I could be doing something social, but in the back of my mind, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And that's,
damn, I gotta eat.
That's not healthy, right? So when I start experimenting with fasting, you see you're not going to wither away, and you're not tied to the food, and you can go long periods of time without eating, and you gain more energy, and your digestion, you get more time for your body to, for lack of better words, catch up. And you gain a lot of mental fortitude.
I think the biggest benefits of fasting, like I've done the 24 hours, I've done I think 36 or 48 too, or in even intermittent fasting, but you realize like what does hungry actually feel like? Because a lot of us eat when we're bored, or we need entertainment, or when we're stressed. And when you realize like what true hunger feels like, you get a little more in tune with it, and you can recognize it better. And then it also gives you that kind of empowerment to realize, like, I could go way longer than I think without eating, so you're less impulsive. Because there's times where, like, the moment people get a hunger cue or they think they're hungry, it's like, it's going to be the end of the world if I don't eat in this moment. And they have to go grab something, right? Where in reality, like, you probably could go 12 hours and you're going to be completely fine.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to feel anything. You probably go longer than that. So once you realize that, like, yeah, it can be empowering to know, like, I have control over this, and I don't need to eat.
It's like true intuitive eating. Like, you learn, like, your body is going to... Like, if you eat every single night at 8 o'clock, it's naturally just going to get hungry at 8 o'clock because it's used to being fed then.
Absolutely.
And I think, I don't know, it's helped me to, like, kind of change my idea of intuitive eating. And going back to, like, the obsession with, like, if you're so obsessed with weight loss, like, for me, what fasting did, and the weight loss in general, was, like, I have so much energy. I feel the best that I've ever felt my whole life. Like, you're not just losing weight. Like, you have to, like, shift your perspective into, like, what you're gaining. And I think that is what, like, can change it. I don't know.
Yeah. And another thing is it helps you probably learn to deal. A lot of people's answer and solution to everything is eating, right? So, I'm sad or I'm stressed, I eat. But if you kind of maybe go through some time of experimenting with fasting, you're putting the rules on, right? So I'm not eating until whatever, 2 p.m. And if 10 a.m. you have some work email, and you normally would reach for food to deal with that, something stressing you out. Well, now you're like, well, I'm not eating until this time. You find another way to deal with it.
Yeah, you kind of recondition yourself.
Learn, I didn't need food to deal with that, which then is a little tool in your toolbox for how to handle situations and everything.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't think I expected it to, like, change my relationship with food so much, but, like, I don't feel any guilt when I eat pizza or ice cream. Like, I'm just eating it. Like, it's not the end of the world, and I don't really know why fasting has changed that for me, but
it has.
It has.
Yeah.
Yeah, and pizza and ice cream has a lot of nutrition. Like, there's vitamins and minerals.
Yeah,
and
the dietitians say pizza is the perfect food.
Yeah, it has
carbs, fat, protein.
Exactly. So it's really just that it can be a problem because it's super high in calories, and which you might need, but it's also easy because it is so delicious to overeat. But again, when you're in control of things, you can stop, or you realize, hey, I ate more today. I'll have a little less in my next meal, or if fasting can give you the confidence to skip a meal, and not because you're trying to starve yourself off. You're just you kind of have found that intuitive balance of more and less and what you need to maintain your weight and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's like a hard part about social media is a lot of people, it's like if you count calories, like you have an eating disorder, like don't fast because you need this. And it's from having been there, it's like all of these things have only led me to more food freedom and like more control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all your mindset around it. Like if you think of counting calories as like super restrictive or obsessive, then of course, like, you know, if that's your mindset towards it, that's, you know, how you're going to feel about it when you do it. But if you look at it as like, this gives me flexibility and the ability to just have some awareness around how much I eat, like that's a whole different way to look at it. And for me, like that's more freeing to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I can eat really whatever I want, fit it in, and I'm good. And it keeps me accountable to myself, you know, to make sure that I'm where I need to be and where I want to be. So
yeah. And I know as a coach, and because you have experienced so much, and this is what we all want, is there is like that moment where you have the confidence of I have control over food, and it's like powerful, and that's what you want for people to realize, that you can kind of like have that power. But it's not easy. I mean, again, we could listen to you talk now and how you feel, and it's like, man, that's where I want to get, and it just looks like a straight line.
Yeah, it's taking me 9 years.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, look at, you know, how long it took us to get there too. Like it just takes a long time of trying and failing, and maybe for you, lost weight, gained weight, came back down. Like that's not linear at all.
Yeah,
like, that's far from it.
You know, also experienced health issues beyond weight, like, you know, lost bone density, staring down, what's this going to look like decades from now if I don't get a handle on this? And then to see, that's why I love tracking and having some data, right? So you had bone stuff, you know,
Bone density scan.
bone stuff,
bone things, muscle stuff.
You got your bone stuff, and but you were able to see improvement, and then be like, oh, I made this nutritional change, and then this happened, you know. So it's kind of like layers into your confidence and excitement for like these things work.
Yeah, that's like the cool thing about this industry is that it's very like tangible. Like you can see the changes, and like whether it's blood work or your weight, I don't know, it's all just, you just experiment and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, did you see the one of the clients in the Facebook group?
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, I mean, I've been doing this 16 years. And every time that happens,
those are the best, man.
So
you're
exciting.
Like, this is why I do it. This is why I want to do 16 more years. And to know, and here it's like a catch-22, because I know there's a lot of new people in the group, and they'll see that post. So a client posted how, you know, she's thankful for the gym and her coaches, and she's lost since November 32 pounds. But more importantly, she went to the doctor and like left with good vibes, because her cholesterol was perfect, her blood work was perfect, like she got an A+ report card, and she was just really feeling it. But I also know there's a lot of new people, and they could see that and be like, man, like she must have just said, I'm gonna do this, and rode the wave, and there it is.
And when in reality, we know what it took for her to get there.
We're digging in that person the last 2 years, right? We've been same stuff, and she'll go a week and fall off and struggle and totter back and forth, and have, not the best word, but like relapses. And I mean, it was a whole struggle to where it finally clicked 2 years later. And it literally clicked, because I mean, she just, 6 months, 30 pounds, that's basically as good as it gets.
And I think that's what like keeps you going. Like if you actually see those results, like
yeah,
you know, it's hard if you're starting and it's been a month and nothing's changed. You're like, well, screw this.
Yeah,
like,
this
it's
isn't
not
worth it.
Yeah.
But she just came to trust us over time. And what you'll see, I mean, the really gratifying part is, you know, someone easily has a decision to face those things and just, I'll just take the medication and end in a mental place for the next 20, and everything just gets worse. Where she fixed it all with literally exercise and diet.
Yeah. As I got into like the research on like fasting, and I got into like insulin, and like the truth of the matter is, like with diabetes, like all of these conditions, like the medications aren't going to make you feel any better. It might like put things at bay, but like your lifestyle can change everything, like for how you actually feel. And like, that's what you should be like really going for.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, someone like in her situation, and more and more we see it the longer we've been in business, people won't want to hear this, but this is the ideal path. The ideal path, our clients who end up, things click and then they maintain the results, and I mean, it's just there, are people who struggle for 1 to 2, 3 years, and then it happens. But that struggle, like, that's the work.
That's what builds it all.
A lot of times people come in and say it's more like super shotgun challenge approach, and they may even get great results initially, but it always crumbles. Whereas the slower, longer approach is just working at it.
Peeling back a lot of layers, and it takes time to do that for people, whether it's like emotional stuff or whatever it may be. Like, it takes 1 to 3 years to do that. It doesn't happen in 6 weeks. You can't unpack all of that in 6 weeks and expect to have a new person at the end of it. It just takes more time.
And like your situation, Julia, you got to a good place, dropped the 30 pounds, bone density is good, found your movement that you really enjoy and love, and you could look at someone could look at that and be like, man, that all kind of happened. But the reality is there's 6-7 years of pain, struggle and up and down, and and even on the surface, which is someone could see that, oh, you chose that degree, and they're probably like, you probably like really love it, and it's just happy thing, and
it's
but
just
the reality is like you fell into it because internally, like, there was, I have to crack this code. I have to learn this. This is really a struggle of mine. So it's almost more out of coming from that place that even drew you there. Yeah.
And it's funny because at one point, like, I was thinking of transferring because I don't know, I wasn't super happy in college, and everyone was like, well, if you started off in like in a bad mindset, then like, because dietetics is kind of hard to find in a college, and the closest school was still 3.5 hours away from home, so it's not that much of a difference than 5. And I just knew that, like, because of those struggles, that's why I want to continue in this. And people just thought, like, well, this is the rest of your life, like, you're not going to be able to sustain a healthy mindset if, like, you're doing this the rest of your life. And I just know, like, this is like, that's like the most important part, is the fact that I fell into it because of that, because now I can take all that and help people in a different way than if I had just gone into it because it was not something that I had ever had to battle, I guess.
Yeah. And people need it more and more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Whenever you go out to the store or whatnot, and
you see people's carts.
Yeah, you see their carts, and then when you initially meet with people and you see where their head's at and what they think they need to do versus what they actually need to do, and and you turn on the radio or social media and you see the marketing and the food, and now the thing that motivates me more and more is you see the young kids, and you see problems that, it used to be heart disease, like men, they'd hit 50 and start dropping from heart disease. Now it's happening to guys in their 30s. And now we have a whole nother generation that's kind of reaching obesity and type 2 diabetes and when they're 9 years old. Right. So what do you think's
what are they going to be like when
in another
older?
decade or two? We're going to start seeing people in their 20s dropping from heart disease. So there's a lot of people that need help.
A lot.
Yeah.
So, and it only gets, and sometimes we can get frustrated as coaches because it's hard to get people to change, and but that's why it's important, because if it was easy, no one would be having the problem.
Yeah. Our environment makes it very difficult for people to navigate that. It's just
and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, food environment. I mean, even in the last 3 years, with the food delivery apps, that's a whole nother level of environment that makes, at least before you had to walk.
You had to go somewhere.
You had to get out of your house, walk to your car, and walk back from your. Now we've eliminated to even walking to your car part, and
it's just there.
You can get, and the food you're going to order is going to be delicious and highly calorie dense. So it's it's a lot to work against. But that's why we have people like Julia coming up.
Exactly. Keep it going.
Keep us old farts from ruining everything. Which is also, which hopefully will stay, and this is any industry.
Yeah.
You can get stuck in your ways. But luckily, that is what I like about all the information, is it does rapidly change. And if you stay plugged in, you can adapt. That's what we've done well as a gym, which, as a gym, you could easily get stuck on just pushing the exercise. But we saw early on that for change, nutrition was a big part. So we always implemented nutrition coaching as part of our program. And now as we've evolved and gone on with time, it's an element that people are seeking out and asking for. And we've gotten a lot of experience with it. So hopefully, it keeps us ahead of the curve. And
yeah, we do a good job of that, and hopefully staying ahead of the curve and
that's
not settling.
Yeah, and it's cool, like, as research evolves, like, I think one of my favorite things about Coastal is that it is, like, very open to, like,
to whatever.
See what works for like individuals. And so with nutrition, it's like, well, this came out, let's try it and see what happens. Like, it might work for somebody and it might not, but, like, we figure out what works on, like, an individual basis, and that's, like, the most important thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're just going to do what works, period. No matter what that looks like, that's what we're going to go for with no real attachment to anything.
Yeah.
That's what I've always said. If I'm super results oriented, and legit, if running 3 miles every day was like the answer, like, that's what I would do. That's what I would have our clients work towards doing. But, most stuff, and then also we see working with people points to, resistance training, walking, and then managing your total food intake. So kind of shuffling people towards that is where we're at now. But if, something changes or you learn more, then we'll shift.
Yeah, we'll change.
And really what we've learned is, and the mistake I made early on was thinking there's a best approach for everyone. But it's, as far as, like, the super details, right? So even with training, right? Like, well, I used to really be into the big three. Squat, deadlift, bench press. That solves all your problems. And the reality is, some people it's fine. They have the structure for it and maybe the age for it. And but then we quickly learned, a lot of people, we put them on a barbell back squat, and 90% of the people shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
They just don't have the mobility, or they've lost the mobility, and they're not going to have the time to work on mobility.
Yeah. So what can we do?
Yeah, but we want them to squat.
Best,
So I'll say, hey, a goblet squat might be better. And someone else, they might be, maybe they're overweight, and them squatting just their body weight alone is enough. They don't even need the dumbbell, but they have trouble getting low. So you have them do a little squat to a bench. So people need different variations. Same thing with nutrition, right? Okay, you could have someone who never struggled with their weight when they were younger. Maybe they were alpha athlete who everything came easy and natural. They just never had those struggles. But now they've just kind of, through life responsibility, they rely on convenient food, but they have no emotional eating issues. Well, yeah, you can kind of give them, hey, here, count your calories and eat this amount of protein, and they latch on day one.
And they do it, and they're good.
Do it, and it works fine. Where someone else, because of, maybe when they were younger, they starved themselves to run faster, and they have some issues, and they've yo-yoed over the years. Yes, the same principles apply and will work, but you have to take a different approach. And maybe you don't even know about their eating issue when they were in high school, because they don't want to tell you yet. And you got to get to know them for a year and a half, and then it comes out and you have a breakthrough. So it's you have to respect that. So now when I was a younger coach, I didn't think about, it's like, here's what you need to do to get results.
And why aren't you doing this?
This works. Oh, you're not doing it? That's on you, right? Whereas now we know if we can keep them engaged long enough, it will click. Whether it's 3 years or 1 year. And maybe they're not ready to tell us something. So it's, learning the nuances of it all. And then hopefully you can fast forward all that, and you get to have, that knowledge going into it ahead of time, and be more patient and with people to, get them to know, like, and trust, and they get there faster.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Let's wrap it up. That's an hour.
We'll wrap it up. Hope y'all enjoyed learning from Julia. So I know we've learned a lot having her. And yeah, we
some
still
new blood.
Yeah, we still get. You leave in August, right?
Late August.
Late August.
She'll be here for
2
months.
Month and a half. Another month and a half.
Yeah.
Where are we? I don't even know. It's
No,
about to be
it's
July.
Like 2 months.
Yeah, yeah, tomorrow's July, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
All
2
right.
more months.
So yeah, let us know what you think if you want. Julia has an Instagram, right?
Yes. Julia MacMasters. I also have a fitness one. It's just jmac_fit, I think. There might be an underscore in the front.
She's got her influencer.
The influencer.
Got a
tag.
whole 300 followers.
There you go.
There you go. I mean, I've been working at it for years and it just doesn't budge. I got to do more booty shots.
That's what I was gonna say, man. Like you gotta pull those shorts out,
Though,
or the leggings
shorts,
that go up,
man?
the leggings that go up your butt crack.
They have
Or-
ones with bows on it now.
Do
It
they?
goes up and then there's like a bow in it.
wait.
what you mean.
Like an actual physical bow.
I think so, yeah.
They would sit on the top.
That's what you
top
need.
I think
of your
it's in
butt
the
cheeks.
middle.
Oh, in the middle.
I don't know.
I don't have any, so I don't know, but that's what you need to
I'll
start
just go
posting
on
pics of,
Amazon,
man.
yeah.
Do your lateral band walks.
Yeah, we all this talk about information and connecting with people. The reality is,
People just want to look at butts all day.
yeah, you just got to get some butts and bicep pictures out there.
Butts and buys.
But so yeah, hit us up if you have anything or you want to connect, and yeah, let us know topics you want to hear,
Questions,
guests.
criticism.
Really,
We can take it.
I think people just want to hear, not us.
Yeah.
Because when we have
When's the next guest coming
when
on?
we have guests, we it goes more downloads. So that's the key. So we will keep bringing you other people than Will and
We can
Gary.
just trick people. It's just us, but we say there's a guest.
Mm-hmm.
Get our downloads that way.
Just start combing the streets,
Yeah.
pulling people in.
Just some guy doing construction down the street.
All right. Well, y'all have a good week. We'll be back at it next week.
See ya.
Thanks for having me.
As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.